Just checking out the view from above the Huerto. Brian's Green Garden somewhere down there. Take a look at a naga. You've grown your tomatoes. It's been a couple months. The flowers came, the fruit came, and you're thinking, I'm just a week or so away from some great tomatoes. Look at that beauty. Look at that brown stain. That's the beginning of this blossom end rot. Every tomato lover's worst nightmare. I just want to sit down and cry. Is it over? What about the ones that don't have it yet? Can we prevent it from happening to the other ones? Disaster. I watched many hours of videos on blossom end rot on YouTube, of course. And so I have to save you some time. And there are a lot of different remedies. Some being, you've probably heard of them, crushed eggshells in your garden to add calcium. Even Tums. People are spending a few dollars on a packet of Tums and throwing them in the ground. Both remedies have proven to be inadequate. Eggshells, why? Because they have calcium carbonate, but they don't have it available to the plant. Now there are people saying, well, crush them, put them in a coffee grinder, into a powder, add vinegar to make the calcium plant available. But then you're thinking, I'm putting vinegar in my garden. Don't people use vinegar as a weed killer? Now, I know you dilute it with water, you'll say, but there's no real proof that this helps. And with Tums, you're just spending too much money. And there's no proof that that even helps. So basically, blossom end rot is caused by a lack of available calcium. Now, there's probably tons of calcium in your soil, but it's just not making it to the tomato. But then I watched an interesting video where there have been some studies that suggest that maybe does low available calcium cause blossom end rot, or does blossom end rot cause low available calcium? Good question. One thing for sure though is if you see a tomato with blossom end rot on the vine, get rid of it, because it can spread to the other tomatoes. That's the theory. Although at the same time, a tomato with blossom end rot can be eaten. You just cut off the blossom end rot part. I've done that, and the tomato's been fantastic. Oh. Now, high salt content in soils, and especially high salt content in clay soils, can add stress to the roots of the tomato plant, which in turn cause blossom end rot. One example, I planted the exact same tomato plants from the same seed tray in two different areas of the garden. One in a new area where I just made a new no-dig bed, and down in the old area where I've been building the soil for the last 3 or 4 years. And I didn't get any blossom end rot in the old soil that I've been developing and adding compost and worm castings to for the last 3 years. Nice, fluffy, loamy soil full of nutrients and microorganisms, and not one case of blossom end rot. But I got blossom end rot in the new no-dig beds because the soil underneath the layer of compost and cardboard, where the roots eventually get to, is a clay soil. So I panicked and I got some calcium amendment to put in my garden when I saw my first blossom end rot. And now I've heard that possibly doing nothing can be a good attack on blossom end rot. the first tomatoes that come out will have the blossom end rot, and then the later tomatoes often turn out just fine. Kind of like a blossom end rot phase. Often people will treat their tomato plants for the blossom end rot, and then it goes away, and they think they've solved it with the eggshells. When actually, if they just waited, it would have worked itself out. Sometimes it's just best to wait. So root stress can cause blossom end rot, and also rapid growth. If you're putting a lot of nitrogen in your tomato plants early on, and the rapid growth of the plant can put a lot of demand on the roots for the uptake of nutrients, and that in itself can cause blossom end rot. So they say. So I'm talking about tomatoes, but blossom end rot can affect a lot of different plants as well. Zucchinis, peppers are just some examples of other crops that can be affected by blossom end rot. So blossom end rot happens more commonly in container tomatoes due to the fact that in containers, the soil can dry out quicker than in the ground, which causes stress. Stress causes root stress. There are some varieties of tomatoes that are less prone to getting blossom end rot. And one are cherry tomatoes. They say cherry tomatoes hardly ever get blossom end rot. And the tomato that is known for getting blossom end rot the most are Roma tomatoes, which is unfortunate, one of my favorites. So we need to talk about blossom end rot. Let me know what you do for blossom end rot in the comments below. Let's share some ideas. Thanks for watching. Stay strong through the blossom end rot. Everything will be okay in the end. Garden on.